Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another week here at the RGM Experience podcast with me, Carl Maloney. How are you doing? All right. Just a little word for you YouTubers that are watching this. I've been having a look at some data recently, and 90% of the people that watch our videos, you beautiful people, whoever you are, you're not actually subscribing. So do us a little favor, will you? If you're watching this, bottom right in the corner, press the subscribe button and join in with the fun because we've got loads of stuff coming your way. And we're not going to let you down today, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we've got an old mucker of mine from Sheffield, Rob Nicholson. Hi, mate.
Hello, mate. You okay?
Yeah, I'm just got the paperwork out of the way. That's all out. All the asking for subscribers bollocks that
That's
YouTubers
it.
have to do.
Get the admin work done first.
You've just been showing me around this beautiful new studio that you've got behind you, mate. So, if anybody doesn't know who you are, do you want to introduce yourself to the RGM people watching this?
Yeah. So my name is Rob Nicholson, and I've always sort of been in the sort of musicy kind of creative sort of Sheffield thing for a long time. Obviously, band wise, from sort of early 2004 onwards, and then now it's a photography thing I'm doing. That's been really good, been really fulfilling, and gone from like strength to strength in the 3 years since I sort of picked up my first camera. I've gone from secondhand gear and walking around the Peak District taking photos of trees to, having my own sort of studio and working with some really big clients and traveling up and down the country and
Yeah.
going to different countries soon as well to do stuff. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but yeah, Pedalo Photography is the name of us if you want to have a look for us.
Well,
I say us, it's mainly me, but
in the description of the podcast is a link to all of your artwork and all the projects that you've got going on here. But let's delve into that music history that you've got a little bit first of all. So full disclosure, I can remember in the New Inn pub on Gleeglas at bottom of Gleeglas Common having a pint with you,
yeah.
young little rotters, weren't we at that time? Just had the world at his feet, just wanting to
Mm.
make it and be in a band where we were both in different bands at the time, and we were just both eager to change the world with our music at one point, weren't we?
Yeah, a long time ago. It
Yeah.
seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? But also seems like yesterday as well.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Yeah, I think it was just for me. It was a case of like I knew obviously like some of the guys like Ben and stuff who knew you and Matt,
Yeah.
and we kind of had our own little sort of gang of mates that were into music but like didn't do anything or didn't know how to play any instruments or anything like that. And then it wasn't until being a bit more immersed in that scene and seeing my brother obviously do his thing that I just thought maybe I could have a go at this and let's just do it and see what it's like and have a bit of fun. And I think I remember like I didn't even have my own bass for the first 6 months of being in a band. I was just borrowing somebody else's until I'd saved up enough money to buy my own. But
And was
just
that
that whole thing,
the Wanted then? Is that
it
what?
was, yeah, yeah. Like unashamedly like Britpop
Yeah.
band, clearly like like clearly influenced by Oasis and the Roses and all that kind of thing, and
So
almost like not ashamed for it.
we were
So
called the sound. You had to you had to it had to start with a third in it.
yeah. Yeah, I don't even know. I think we were Danny was our singer. We were at his brother's house because he was like looking after the house when we decided to start it. I think, and I don't know where the Wanted came from. I think it was just Danny's idea, and we were like, "That sounds all right." I'm sure there are a million bands out there called the Wanted. Then soon to be obviously became a really well-known pop band.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we just sort of did it and went from there, and then just sort of practiced, got a studio place to go to, like Attic Studios, and borrowed kit and just learned how to play bass and never really looked back from there,
Yeah.
really.
There were good times when it kind of like we were all into like watching Oasis live and going to gigs and that kind of stuff and having a beer and doing all the things that the noughties then when I keep thinking it's the 90s it were the early noughties, weren't it, that when
Yeah,
we
we're not that old.
I know, yeah, I keep forgetting. So you mentioned your kid there. Do you want to tell us a story about your kid's journey there if people aren't aware of it already?
Yeah, so my brother is Andy, who is the original bass player in a little band called Arctic Monkeys.
Yeah.
So kind of being at the part of all that scene and seeing that all kind of kick off in such a short space of time was like very, I think, inspiring for a lot of people, but certainly inspiring for someone like me who kind of wanted to do it as well.
Hmm.
And really sort of delve into that of just look what can happen, and if you put that work in and you've got something, it can really go somewhere, which obviously it has done, and now 20 years on, the
Hey,
arguably the biggest band in the world, aren't they? So,
what an amazing journey those lads have been on. So
mm.
when was the first time when you like thought back and thought, Christ, something's happening here? When was the first time that you just from like, being Andy's brother and being around the boys, when did you start to think that, wow, it's going somewhere, this?
It was weird because I think even up to them doing really well, even like chart wise, you don't really, it doesn't sort of sink in, I don't think. So I know we'd seen them, obviously we'd been to the early gigs and all that kind of thing, and we'd been to like the boardwalk a few times. And then I think I had a few, maybe like a month where I'd not been to sort of see them, or maybe 2 months where I'd not really been to see them because they were maybe doing gigs all over the country, going to like York and Middlesbrough and all that kind of thing. And I just sort of not really gone to any of them. And then they came back and played at the Lead Mill, and it was just packed. And I just remember sort of standing on the side of the stage while they were playing and going to, I think we're talking to John McClure, I think, and just said like, when did this happen? Like, this has just gone from like 0 to 100. And it's still, it's still at such a sort of small level, really, because it's, they've sold the Lead Mill out, which is amazing, but, still unsigned, really, still only known by hardcore fans, but like packed out. And it was sort of, then it was like, oh, this is fun, this is good. But then even when they were like the Brit Awards, I think my brother texted me like 2 days before the Brit Awards were actually on, because they weren't at the gig, they were at the sort of the awards, I mean. And he texted me with a photo on the tour bus saying we've won Best New Band. And I was like honestly umming and ahhing of like, maybe I could go and put a bet on because it's live on Wednesday.
Oh yeah.
So if I could like, let's go and put like the mortgage saying, I bet Arctic Monkeys win Best New Band. But then I thought, well, if they find out that we actually know it's happened because I've got a photo of the award, it probably won't go down very well. So yeah. But even at that stage,
it's like having the almanac off thing, isn't it? Off Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Inside's like, oh, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously, I was a bit maybe naive to the success of it, but I think when you are in so close to them all as, a gang of lads and a group of mates and stuff, you probably don't really step out that much and be like, this is mental, this is really taking off. But maybe Leeds Festival, like 2005, like I went with them and they'd done Reading on the Friday in the NME tent, and it was like packed, there's probably like 3,500, 4,000 people in this tent. It was like great. And then we went to Coventry, like stayed overnight in Coventry in a hotel, and went to Leeds the day after. And then that was just like insane. There was like 5,000-6,000 people trying to get into this tent that holds 3.5. Extra security had to come in. All these extra people were coming to like line the front of the stage. There is actually a video of it. I recorded this video from my old phone, and then kind of like lost this footage. And then about a year ago, I found it on YouTube. Someone had put, I don't know how they got hold of it. Maybe I posted it on a forum or something. Yeah. And it like, I don't want to say leaked because I probably posted it somewhere and forgot about it. And and then I watched this little documentary the other day about it. And then this guy was like, this is the only real footage of that gig. And I was like, yeah, it was mental. Like the crowd was mental. And there's a little moment in that clip where they start to play when the sun goes down and the crowd just sort of take over and start singing the intro. And then it just goes louder and louder and louder, where they're just chanting like monkeys, 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 louder and louder and louder. And Andy sort of like looks back at the camera, like really wide eyed. And there was a bit of a moment of like, wow, this is mental. So it was probably, that was the moment I thought, yep, we're onto something here. This is incredible. And then obviously all the chart stuff sort of happened, and it was good. So yeah, it was a really good time.
Well, I'm not going to say this story again because I've banged on about it I keep getting asked it every time Arctic Monkeys bring a new album out. The first ever gig that they did down at the Grapes, where half of Sheffield were there.
Yeah,
weren't they?
But we actually were there.
Yeah, but we actually were there. Yeah,
we actually were there.
People there in the Grapes, weren't they, or something like that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've told the stories many times before. What do you remember from that night yourself personally?
I just remember how like fun it was, really, and how sort of a bit nervous they all were.
Yeah.
And I remember sort of I don't think I was in the sound check, but I think they were getting ready to go on, and they were so sort of young to it all. I think I only needed like the engineer Ash, I think it would have been, to like tell him what to do with his bass amp, and this dial, no next one, that kind of thing, just to turn the treble up on the bass or something. And Yeah, I just remember him. Half of his work were there because he'd just started this job as a. He laid me for this. He was a junior at Tony and Guy because he wanted to train
Oh,
to be an
okay.
hairdresser.
Okay.
So loads of the girls from the hairdressers had come,
Yeah.
and it was like 2 days before I was going on holiday with my mates. So some of them would come. Some of them had come, and I just remember it just being like really fun. And then playing, covers of like the Datsuns, and
Hmm.
I think they did a cover of "While I'm Only Sleeping." Just Alan, Matt maybe did that. Um, I'm very raw, obviously. There probably is a bit of audio. I think you've got that audio somewhere, haven't you?
Well, what happened was just for people who don't know the story. Your drummer out of the Wanted was Matt Revel.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Revel. No. Your lead guitarist was Ben Revel in the Wanted. His brother
Yeah,
Matt
yeah, yeah.
Revel drummed for us at the time, and we were headlining that gig. So he just got one of these fucking mini discs. It was like the future, look at this little thing,
Yeah, yeah.
like a little CD thing. And he was testing his sound recorder at the gig, and he tested it. I think he just set it to record when the Monkeys were on, just before we come on, because we were going to record our set. And that audio got leaked through LimeWire. Back in the day when you had LimeWire on your
Yeah,
computer just sent out your files to the public. It was just one of them free streaming services things, weren't it, where you can nick music and stuff. And it ended
yeah.
up out there in the big old world, annoyingly. And it's on YouTube with hundreds of thousands of views and stuff on it. Annoyingly, now I'm a YouTuber. That'd have been that out these days, wouldn't it? And just trying
Kill
to.
for those views.
No, you bloody could, couldn't you? But in it, just like just like just a chance thing like that. But at least it got recorded, and at least there's documentation of it out there in the world.
Yeah,
Because even then, and the main thing that I remember from the gig is the band kicking us out, and we were the headliners. They kicked us out their sound checks. They wanted to get it right. So
yeah,
they were really professional from.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that comes from maybe Al's, dad's been a music teacher and stuff, and really wanting to be detailed on what they do and everything. So I think all along you got to admire like the professionalism, all along. I think the only chaos in the band was ever when Andy did something. He was the sort of chaos that maybe grounded it all a little bit. But yeah, it was good. It was a really good night, and it was more like, I don't know, being in a bit of a shock really that they'd done it. And yeah, you don't know. I mean, you don't know what's going to come from it, do you? You don't know. You don't think like, right, remember this moment because this is going to
Oh
be
God,
it.
no. Yeah,
It was just your brother and his mates having some fun and
yeah.
stuff. And
When you get asked the question, it's just like, was it just like a magical evening? No. It was just like
just another night. I can't even remember
Tuesday
what
night
it's like.
or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Thing,
just midweek. I think we've still got the guitar somewhere. I think Andy's got that
Okay.
Al's guitar that he had somewhere at home. My mum had it for a little bit, and then I think maybe we'll take it. I think we're going to try and get it back to him at some point. But
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. He might not want it, but I don't know.
I just remember Al being really curious, and we used to see him down at Brighton Beach. Did you ever go down to Brighton Beach when they
Oh
moved?
yeah, I loved it. I
They
loved
moved it
Brighton
away.
Beach.
They moved it away from City Hall, and it were down while they were doing up the City Hall, and they'd moved it down to Foundry.
Yeah,
Down there, and all the Harrisons used to be there. I think
yeah,
were down there. Definitely the
probably.
Harrisons. We used to get hammered with them all the time. You guys were down there from the Wanted. We used to see Al and the boys down there as well. And I can remember him asking me, like, what do you think of the band and that kind of stuff? I'm like, mate, and they just started to like pick up. I just think they just sold out the lead mill, and they're asking me for advice. I'm like, Al, you'd be all right, mate. I think you're doing all right.
I think you're onto something.
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
That Brighton Beach night was amazing because it was just like a big. I don't know, like you could go on your own and not think, oh, I'm going to a club night on my own, because you just knew people would be there. Especially when it was at the ballroom in the City Hall, like.
Yeah.
Everyone's, in the best sort of Fred Perry and everything, and trying to look as cool as they can and be the ace face of the night and everything. But everyone just knew someone would be there.
All the bands in Sheffield and all the musicians and anybody that were just like doing that similar kind of like-minded people were just all there. We're great.
Yeah.
I can remember going there many a times just on my own, and like, I don't know, just ending up with you get a taxi home or whoever.
Yeah.
Anybody, it was a golden age of Sheffield music. That it was a special time, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I kind of, yeah. If anyone ever says to you, like, if you could go back to any point in time, what would it be? And it'd be like probably 2004.
Yeah,
it's just like so much, so fun. Everything. I mean, obviously, I'd probably do it not even like without any knowledge of what's to come, because it was just so exciting and fun to do, and then something was different. Everybody was creating, and everyone was like exciting. These bands were getting places, and there was a real buzz about the city, and there were loads more venues where people were playing at. It was good. It was a good time to sort of be in the music scene in Sheffield. I think it might be now, but I'm just so out of it. I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well,
I have no idea.
I can remember seeing like hearing Arctic Monkeys on the radio, that kind of stuff, and then I can remember watching Coronation Street and seeing the State of Things poster on the wall when characters were walking.
Yeah.
Baker's first album, little things like that when you think this fucking, it's on Coronation Street. It's got a poster on the wall. Walking past, little things like that from a Sheffield musician when you think there's something going on here. Know what's happened since Pulp, it feels like, and now two bands are like kicking off and just having it and doing amazing, and then we ended up with Little Man Tate and Milburn, and loads more came after that. It was such a special time, isn't it? I don't know. I'm blubbering because I just love that time.
No, you're right. I mean, and I remember the NME thing, and as cringy as the New Yorkshire title was, because I think they wanted to sort of link it to the Strokes and LCD Sound System and everything that was happening a couple of years prior. It was like a good gang of bands, and it was really sort of inspiring to be around. And those bands probably sparked other bands, and there's probably people now who are in bands because they'd been to see Milburn or because they'd seen the Harrisons or Gaskell or somebody like that. There'll be bands that are around now because of them, or cite them as an influence, and maybe we don't think of that too much, because we probably, everyone probably thinks, well, these guys are in a band because they're Arctic Monkeys, because they're still, this sort of superpower of music almost.
Yeah.
But I don't know if people really stop to think, it's other bands as well, like Milburn, that were there. Monkeys used to support Milburn. They were the ones, Milburn. If anyone is to sort of get the credit of kicking off that Sheffield scene in the early 2000s, Milburn are the ones that were doing that. So I don't know if they get enough credit, but there'd be so many bands that are inspired by them, and you still see it now. There's still, I go to Joe's gigs every Christmas and help him with, some sort of artwork and photo stuff and video stuff there, and the stuff that the kids there that are singing well back, they're 18, 19 and probably weren't alive when it was coming out. So it's great to see it.
What was it like for you personally, just chugging away in the Wanted when you could see your Andy flying? I'm always fascinated with that kind of stuff.
It's both inspiring because you can think, look what can happen, but then almost a bit demoralizing because it's not going to happen, because that kind of thing doesn't come along much. I mean, in my opinion, bands like that, you have like the Beatles and then Oasis and then Arctic Monkeys, and there's others there, Nirvana probably in there as well, and other bands, but of that sort of British rock style or British music style, I don't know if anyone else has really captured that like they did. So there's always that thing in the back of the mind, knowing of like, it doesn't really matter what I do because it's not going to be this, I'm not going to get the plaudits they get. We're not going to be on Enemy. We're not going to do this, that, and the other. But then that's where you think, why? Well, I'm doing it because I enjoy it rather than anything else. And I think we were guilty of doing things to try and be something or try and get somewhere. And I think that's always a bit of a dangerous thing to do when you're trying to write songs that are like, what would people like? What kind of song do we want to get us known somewhere? Do we have songs that are like people can listen to? Like, how do we write a hit and all that kind of thing? And I think if we look back and think, well, if we do it for us, then that's the main thing. That's the enjoyment, which is that's kind of the attitude I have now with like photography. Really, like if I like it, that's kind of what I'm going for, and not really thinking what do I need to do to make this shot look good or something like that. It's all about my satisfaction from it, and I don't know if there was that satisfaction there because it was so hard to like keep pushing and keep chugging away when you're playing to like 5 people on a Friday night or something. But then you brothers on a sold out tour. So
yeah, well, no, I get it, and it's still relevant now, that kind of advice. Because I see so many bands that just take themselves so fucking seriously. And all they want is just to finish the gig that they're advertising and play a bigger gig, and then play a bigger gig instantly. without like kind of really like just sitting back and enjoying what they do. And in my bed, Ben, I'll speak for myself, where we made every mistake possible, played Sheffield probably 3 or 4 times too much every week. Sometimes, playing every venue within a week. So you just satirizing the crowd that you're going to get. You're just going to end up with 4 shit gigs when you could combine all those people and just do one big gig, and it's going to be more beneficial and that kind of stuff. And just instead of just like not really thinking about it, just I don't know, we didn't know what we were doing, and we made every mistake under the sun. And that's why I love doing RGM, because I can pass on that advice to young bands that are taking themselves miles too seriously, and should just take a step back and just enjoy it, to be in the moment a bit more, which I think being in the moment a bit more is not just musicians. That could be for everybody if you've got a busy lifestyle as well, can't it? Just like
definitely. I think that would be the same. I would sort of also give the same advice of just enjoy it, be in the moment of doing something, and don't get too hung up on being like a success, like not to get all kind of Rick Rubin, but if you've created something in the first place, then that's a success. If you've created something and been brave enough to put it out, that's a success. It's just, it might not be the audience, or the amount of people might not hear it that you want to hear it, but you are a success if you're creating and doing something, if you wanted to be a creative person. So I would always say just enjoy it, because if you get too hung up in it and too caught up in it, and it becomes a chore, and you start to hate it, and you start to fall out with each other, which happens as well, because there's a shared frustration of maybe not getting anywhere, then it just takes it out of you. And just enjoy it, just do it for you, and think this is what I want. I'll make music you want to listen to is what I always kind of go with.
Well, I know your Andy's mentioned it on podcasts before, but what was the catalyst for him to think it's just not for me, this?
There was sort of stuff, a lot of things, sort of personal stuff going on at home, and stuff that he wanted to sort of deal with. And I don't know, maybe just sort of, it was a lot. And I think it was a lot for all of them.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take kids, 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, and take them away, and they go on tour for 3 weeks, then they come back for 2 days off, and those 2 days off are in London having a meeting or something, and then they're off planning another tour. And I think it's a lot, and I think the mental fatigue of it wasn't really spoke about back then. And I think we've come such a long way in the last sort of 15 years with it, that it's all right to sort of say, like, this is a lot, this is a lot for me to sort of process, and all that kind of thing. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of sort of said about it, about sort of what happened, and he's kind of answered all that himself. So he's but he's grateful, he's doing well, he's a music producer still, he's still in music, he's still doing a lot of stuff, he's still very successful in what he does.
One of my favorite tunes, Ace of Spades. Is it Ace of Spades? Is that
Clubs and Spades?
Clubs and Spades. That's how I got it wrong. Yeah. You're okay.
Clubs and Spades were great. He's doing similar stuff at the. Yeah, Gold Teeth is still his production stuff, so he's still doing that. I've done loads of stuff, done stuff with Toddler T a lot. He did some stuff for one of the last Sheffield United kit launch videos, with some stuff he produced as well, and helped work on and stuff. So he's got, he's producing Joe Carnell's new album for Good Cop, Bad Cop. A lot of stuff, works with a lot of people in a lot of different genres as well, and doing what he wants to do with his life. It's really commendable that he's still in that field, and he's still doing everything, and still progressing, and still growing, and still growing as a person, and doing what he wants.
Yeah, I hear you both still got a great relationship with the band, with the lads as well. Went to Sheffield recently. I can remember seeing a picture with you and Matt while you were looking at the stage. What were you talking about on that picture, by the way? You and Matt Elder, when you were looking at the stage.
I think we were so we'd kind of met Matt in the morning, and we'd gone to picked him up at his hotel, and then went to Bradfield for some dinner, just to sort of get out of the way and just sort of connect. And then it was nice because my brother and his girlfriend Kemma met us, so it was like a nice little meal between us, and like with Awara was there as well, which was really nice. And then we kind of went down to the site and just had a little wander around and sort of soaked it all in. I've not seen them play live since our Andy was in the band, so that was the first time I'd been to see them play. So it was a really big moment, really. So I spoke to him, and we'd seen each other in different sort of social settings and that kind of thing, and had little exchanges over messages and stuff before then. So we were just sort of wandering around, and I think we were saying like, I think we're just talking about the stage and how big it is, and if he sort of sat on his drum stool, he could see the house on Parkside Road where it all sort of started.
Oh wow!
Which was where we used to live. Me and Andy used to live, and everyone used to come for tea. Al used to come for his egg and chips and stuff, and it was kind of like one of the hubs of it all starting was in there, where they used to sort of come and hang out, because my mum would just, it's only me, my mum and my brother, so it'd be like a little, come round, bring your mates. I don't, it's nice and fun and everything. So I think we were just saying how mad it was that, that started there, and yet here we are in Hillsborough Park, and there's going to be 40,000 people here over each night, and it's going to be pretty mental. So we were just wandering around the site, and then that was the last bit, because I think the doors were about to open, so we had to kind of rush back before people rushed in and he got mobbed and stuff. So it was good. It was nice. Yeah.
It were a beautiful gig. It was red hot. I can remember being at the Saturday one, and it was just red hot, and just everybody were having so much fun. And I just got all the hoo-ha that goes on after an Arctic Monkeys gig about. They didn't mention Sheffield too much, and they played quite subdued. I can remember having a bit of a laugh with you about the kind of reaction the Monkeys get sometimes when they play locally, and the expectation from a local crowd for them to be something different than what they're not is really unrealistic and unfair in many ways as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I saw people saying like, they never mentioned Sheffield. Like, I don't, someone tweeted something really funny saying, what did you expect him to do? Like come out singing about Sheffield and douse himself in Edison's Relish? Like, it's just not what they are. And they've never been that. They were never that when they were on the way up. They were never that when they were doing 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 venues. They were never like Sheffield, this, that, and the other. It was just all about the music and all about them playing. And I appreciate that. I've been to gigs where bands just talk to the crowd. And, if you have to, in my opinion, this is probably from, me and you going and watching Oasis, because they never really had to do that. If you have to keep doing that and keep mentioning stuff and keep saying Sheffield, let's hear all this kind of thing, if it's a big on time and coming gig, then in my opinion, I don't think you've got the crowd where you want them to. If you can go and turn up and do a gig and everyone goes mad and you don't have to say a word, you've got them in the palm of your hand. And I think they do. That's what they were doing.
It is, isn't it? It's a little bit cheap for a band, a big band, to get an instant pop in it, I suppose.
Cheap pop. Mick Foley, cheap pop.
Yeah. We do like his wrestling. I come to that in a bit if we get that way. But but it is a cheap pop in it. In a way, for a band, just to like it might be quite quiet, and then say, "Come on, Sheffield," or whatever, and then it gets the crowd going, and then it is a little bit cheap sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, he did mention Sheffield though, because I remember hearing him say it. He did say like, Sheffield, you have been amazing, as I knew you would be, and everyone like, so I don't know what people were expecting, but that's just, they've never been like that. They've never been that kind of band that does that. There's not much talking in between gigs, which I appreciate, because that's not what you're here for. I'm not here to, if I went to see Oasis, I'm not here to listen to Liam do a 15-minute speech about something. I'm like, just sing Rock and Roll Star for me and maybe swagger around. Do you know what I mean? Let me escape from what I'm in at the minute, and be in this moment with you and all these people. And that's what I want, to listen to this music and stuff. So it was good. I didn't go to Saturday, I went to Friday. And it was very strange, because like the first song they played was Certain Romance, and that was, funny enough, the last song I ever heard them played live. So there was a little bit of like anxiety about being there. But then as soon as I heard that drum start, I was like, okay, this is good. I'm all right now. Yeah, it was nice. And then there was a little, I spoke to Matt about it afterwards and said, "Oh, it's so good that you played Certain Romance." He's like, "I didn't know we were playing it till like an hour before we went on set." So Al just wanted to put it in at the beginning. I think it was a little nod to our Andy, I think. So I think he wanted to play that for him. So it was nice. And then we had a good little few drinks afterwards up to Fagan's, and nice, very bit surreal, sort of me and Matt and Pele from the Hives just having a chat. And so it was lovely till like 2 a.m, which is 2 a.m. is a lot different when you're 40 than when you were 23.
Yes,
especially when you don't drink anymore. So you're just on the 0%, and everyone's gradually, getting more and more drunk, and you're in sort of like they're noticing it more. And then you get to a point where like people have started repeating themselves 3 or 4 times, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go home now, because I think this is me done.
Yeah, so, I get it.
No, it was a great weekend. Great weekend for Sheffield.
They just like to moan, I think, some people a little bit.
I think it's what we do best sometimes.
It's quite, well, I enjoy my own.
Yeah, same.
And it's just like just the last thing on it. Do you know, like when they mentioned they didn't play enough songs off the first album? I'm just like, for God's sake, just if you want to listen to the first album, just listen to the first album. That this is the new stuff, and particularly when they're bringing
Yeah.
all that kind of bullshit, I just think, oh God, just move on with your
Yeah,
life.
I find that, and I find it was the same when Tranquility Base came out, and it was the same when The Car came out, when people were sort of saying certain stuff about it. And my thing for that is like, it's not shit. It's just not for you, and that's fine. You know, they grow, and a band that continues to evolve and change is the reason why they're so where they are. It's the reason why they've just done a 20-day tour of stadiums in America. You know what I mean? It's the reason why they're playing every football stadium in the country in England, because they evolve and they grow and they build. And it's not just about that clangy guitar sound anymore. You know, there's a lot of depth to them. So if if you're a band and you grow and you explore yourselves and you want to be sonically different and all that kind of thing, then more power to you, and you deserve that.
Yeah. So when your band stopped for a bit, then how did you move forward as a human yourself? You know, how did you develop and stay creative with things after you stopped playing music yourself personally?
It was hard, you know. We stopped doing the Wanted after a few years. I think we just sort of fell out of love with it a little bit, and probably the grind of it was, you know, really stressful, and you start to lose members here and there, and then your lineup starts to change a little bit, and someone comes in, someone leaves, someone doesn't want to do it, someone can't do it because they've got, you know, they want to go to something else. No, I can't do that gig. I'm going away to this thing, and it's like, come on, man, what are we doing? So when I left them, and I then joined, they were leaders like pretty much straight away, who just parted ways with their bass player, and very different sound to what I played, and I was very inspired by sort of like Oasis and very driven bass lines. He was a very like technical bass player, a lot of riffs and all that kind of thing. I'm like, right, first of all, that's not me. So if I don't do all these riffs and everything, I'm not doing fills, I'm not doing runs on the bass line. If anything, I'm going to play 3 notes and just drive it forward and stuff, you know. But I kind of concentrated on the sound a little bit. So I would sort of play around with sounds of like overdrive and like tremolo on the bass and things like that. So kind of came in and joined them, and it was pretty good. Like, we did really good stuff, you know. We played the first Tram Lines, we were on the main stage playing that. We played with like The Enemy at their Christmas gig in Coventry, which was pretty crazy. Did a lot of stuff, but then again, the grind of that, you know, how much do you want it when you're driving down to London and playing to 5 people because someone from a record label says they're going to come and see you and they don't, and then you get home at 5 a.m. and you're driving the van, so you've not had a drink, and all you've been paid in is a crate of red stripe. So it's a bit hard to keep that focus going in it and keep pushing. So I think we got to a point where we were trying new things and trying to get somewhere, and it was always for us like on the cusp of breaking through and doing something, but it just sort of didn't work out. And I think a lot of us like lost the love for it a little bit. So it was hard, and, you know, did something again after that with another couple of lads. We did a band called These Bloody Thieves for a little bit with Rob Hurst and stuff. Did a couple of gigs with that, and again, that was just the same thing, just commitments. But by that point, we're getting older. People have got kids, or people who are at uni, people who've got work, and it's finding it a lot harder to commit and stuff. So then we just kind of stopped, and then I never really did anything for a bit. I think the only time I played a gig was like a works Christmas do thing where we put a bit of a band together and we just played like covers of like the Beatles and James Brown and stuff like that. We did like Queen covers and stuff. So it was hard. And I think maybe for a good 10-year period, we almost like maybe lost myself creatively a lot. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Didn't know where I wanted to be or what my purpose was really. And it wasn't until I started photography that I kind of found that and found me really.
Yeah, I can
quite deep that, innit? Found me.
No, I can relate to that because as a bit of a show off kind of like when my band stopped and everybody started getting boring and having kids and that kind of stuff, and I just wanted to carry on. I still want to do one last gig, but it's not going to happen. But hey, I kind of had to find something else to do, and I started to do stand up for a year. Was absolutely all in at it, but it opened up loads of other avenues for me. So like I did a film, I started hosting music gigs and that kind of stuff. So when you get into that kind of situation, getting yourself out of your comfort zone it was for me a really good way of moving forward with my life and just doing what I want to do. Really,
Yeah.
how did you? What tools did you use to find photography, or did you always have an eye for that kind of?
I think it's always been something I've liked. I just never had the equipment or
Yeah.
I've always liked a good photograph. I've always like tried to take cool photographs on my phone, like, back in the day of having the like hipstermatic app and trying to make these photos look cool and edgy and everything. So, and Andy was always into photography. He even did like an exhibition of his work where he'd like printed it on canvases and, put them up and people went to see him and stuff. So I think there was probably a bit of that. My uncle used to be a photographer for the Sheffield Star, so he had like a studio that we would go to sometimes, and like his work was really, really good and inspiring. My great uncle used to have like cameras all the time, and he would go and photograph things and stuff. So it was always probably there in my subconscious, really, that was a big thing in our family of photography. And then I think it was just before lockdown happened, I just thought I'm going to buy a camera and see what I can do. And I've bought a secondhand Sony from Harrison, and my brother gave me a few lenses that he had lying around. And then I bought some like really cheap lenses and just started going out and taking photos. And then obviously lockdown happened, and you're told don't come to work. So I'm like, well, I can't just sit in the house all day. So I'm going to go and drive him, going out on my own and like, respecting the rules and everything, and just going on my own for a walk in the countryside when you were allowed to, and just taking photos from there. And it just kind of grew from that, really. Then started buying like flash, because I wanted to learn how to use flash. So taking photos of things in the spare room with like a backdrop and things like that, because I wanted to know how to use flash photography, and lots of YouTube, lots of like learning and
That's what I'm gonna say.
watching stuff.
How technical do you get with it all? Like understanding all the settings on a camera and stuff. Are you all over that now?
Yeah. So I kind of made the decision of like just learn it and shooting manual. And there's still stuff now, I'm like 3 and a bit years in, and there's still stuff that I'm tweaking and learning, and lighting and things like that. There's still stuff that I learn, and I still probably don't really know what type of photographer I want to be. I think the body of work I have is so broad, from like work I do with the bars for like cocktails and stuff like that to like people, and then out and doing stuff. And it's still, finding yourself. But I mean, I've spoken to photographers who are like 10 years in, do like massive things for big companies, and they're still like, I don't really know what I'm wanting to be with my photography. So yeah, I'm very obsessive with stuff. So if I get into something, I need to learn about it. I need to know everything there is to know about it. I'll learn and be very like driven to finding out every little thing the camera does and how to do it, and looking for like, I'll find a photograph I like and then think, how do I replicate that, or how do I learn how to do something like that, which then leads on to developing a different style and stuff. So
well, I noticed quite quick just how diverse your portfolio was, because you obviously did a lot of like Sheffield stuff, because in lockdown you were just out and about doing what's around you, and like even doing like, then I saw you on top at bus with Sheffield United team celebrating. How different that kind of stuff, and how do you manage the different situations? Do you set out? Do you just take it in your stride and just, or did you try and get an idea of what it's going to be like?
No, I think it's just do. Like I've been very, very fortunate that I've never sort of had to go and ask anybody if they want some work. I've never had to go to people and said, let me do this work for you, or here's some services I can provide. I've always been fortunate that everyone has like come to me. And I think that's just a case of me getting my head down and learning my craft and posting what I'm doing, that then people see that, and then people kind of, like, don't throw things away, I think. And it's probably the same with music as well. Like if you write a song, you're not happy with it, keep hold of it, because there might be something you can pull from that. And it's the same with the photo work, really. Like I took a photo of some trainers I'd bought, and I'd got some colored card, and I wanted to like do something a bit different, learn how to make this sort of picture. And I was in here when I had the studio, and I took these photos, posted them on an Instagram story. So they're there for 24 hours. That was the only place I put them. And then 3 weeks later, I was getting a phone call from Expose magazine to do a cover shot for like Hendo's crisps things. And, can you come up with some shots for that? And I said, oh yeah, I've been thinking about stuff. I've been doing stuff with like coloured card and things like that. And they said, yeah, that's what we saw. That's what we saw to get and thought that's what we want. So I think it just goes to show if just like keep practicing and keep doing stuff and just be broad in what you want to do. You either find what it is you're doing or you kind of, very quickly think that's not for me. I'll move on to this or that and the other. So it's been broad. It's been really like a bit of everything, but I've enjoyed it. I enjoy the challenge of it all, and it might be difficult. Oh, I've never done that before, so yeah, let's try that. I've never done this kind of work before. Yeah, all right, let's have a go and see how it works.
Just while we're on the relish thing, I still don't understand why people in Sheffield love having pictures of relish in the house. It's just me, and I'm quite like I'm a little bit on my own with this kind of thought. But for me, the relish thing, a relish defining the people of Sheffield, somewhere deep down doesn't feel right with me. How do you feel about relish being so influential in Sheffield and Hendos and Hendersons and all that kind of stuff?
I think people are really proud of it because it's a Sheffield thing.
Yeah.
But I think if you asked, I bet about 60% of them like, I don't really use it. It's just in the cupboard. I don't have it on anything. I don't have it on anything. I don't even know if I've even got any.
I've got some even here in Manchester. Somebody bought me some because I live in Manchester.
Yeah, they just assume you like it.
Yeah,
you're from Sheffield. You must want some Edison's relish, like. Yeah. And it's with the right thing, it's good. But I'm not putting it on everything.
Do you have pictures on your wall of it?
No.
Yeah, for me that's just a little bit too far because people have quite a few of them. Like they might have a wall of fucking
pictures part of Henderson's relish is a bit mad, isn't it?
Anyway, let's go back to your photography. So other projects now. You've worked with Toddler T as well. Tell us about that experience of working with T.
Known T for a while. So we actually used to go to primary school together back in the day. We didn't really sort of know each other back then, but then sort of met each other again, sort of maybe mid 2006, 7 kind of era. Just when sort of tramlines was really kicking off, we kind of, linked back up again and then just sort of been mates since then really. And he was doing this video thing. He said, I've got something I might need some help with if you fancy it. Need some shots of like Park Hill and some video stuff for this music video I'm doing. I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. I've got a drone and we've got this idea of he's got a ring and it's got like the outline of Park Hill from above on it. So we had this idea of like flying above Park Hill and then zooming down into the ring with the same thing. So it ended up being a video. Then we took some press shots and then some other little photos. T's a really good photographer. Well, his photography is really good. I really like his style. And then he sort of said, we're doing this. I've been asked to go on the bus with the United players to DJ on the bus through town for the parade. Okay. Do you want to come with me and film some bits for the video? Like, it's all sorted. They know you can come and everything. So I was like, yeah, like I'm not going to turn that down. Absolutely, yeah. So that was mad. Yeah, we kind of got there. We'd done the bit at Park Hill and then we drove down in my car, like me, Tommy's dad and his little boy. And we went down to Bramall Lane and went in and like, it was a bit surreal. I don't know. There was a little bit like, because we were in work mode, I don't think we like appreciated it too much or sort of let it sunk in. And we went to like into the players' lounge and all the players are there with a family and we sat talking. And then we went and got like ready on the bus and got on the top. And it was literally just a table with some decks on and that was it. There was no like hiding or anything else like that. And then there was still a bit of us that were like, maybe the player's gone another one and we're on this one and it's all, a bit forgot about. But it was literally just me, Toddler, and the first team and the first team coaching staff, and then a few of the like club videographers and photographers and stuff like that. Yeah. So it was pretty mad. And then all the players are coming on and like saying hello and we're having like, how you doing? And the chat with him and everything. And then just sort of went through Sheffield with like your boyhood club after winning promotion.
Love it.
Yeah, like filming stuff, taking photos and everything, and it was crazy. And then we got to like, we kind of had to leave. So as soon as we got to Town Hall, we kind of had to get back because Toddler was getting taken back to London because he had something with his wife had something on, so he had to get back for like a book launch thing she was doing. So he needs to get back for that. So we walked to Bramall Lane and we were like, that was mad, yeah, like having a bit of a chat about it. And then later that night, he sent me a voice message and just said, that was mad. We were in the grip of things because we were working, but 2 boys from Manor Lodge Primary School and we're on the bus with the United players. And we're like, yeah, that's kind of when it sunk in of like, that was pretty crazy. That was a bit mad.
It is mad. It's like, I don't know. It's just like being out your comfort zone again, isn't it? You're just like, it's just like,
Mm.
you must reflect on them bits and just think, I've got a bit of a mad life.
Yeah,
it's all
it's
right.
mad.
It's a good life.
I don't think I don't think I reflect enough because I'm kind of constantly like,
Yeah.
Right, what's next? What do I do next? And what do I have an idea about next? Or where do I want to go with this next? I don't really sort of sit back and think about what it is that I've done. And every so often, every month or so, I might or every 2 months, I kind of update or tweak the website and add a few more photos here and there. And it's only then when I scroll through it where I'm like, oh, wow, fucking hell, I've done a lot of stuff. And there's a
Idris,
lot of
tell us about that.
various stuff.
What happened with Idris Elba?
Yeah, that was after it was kind of all part of the same thing. And then so there was like, look, we've got someone filming it, but can you come down and do some behind the scenes photos? Because it's the only time we'll have General Levy and Naomi Cowan and Idris we're all going to be in the same room. So we're going to go and film at this place called the Tabernacle in London. It's like Notting Hill, like very like at the heart of like the carnival and everything like that. So we're going to film in there. I was like, okay. The guy gave me the day. I said, well, luckily 2 days after that, I'm in London anyway because I was doing the Ride London charity thing with a few lads, with Joe Carnell from Milburn and like O'Hara, and Lou Carnell. We were doing that to like raise some money for Roundabout charity. So I'm like, I'm here anyway, so I'll just have an extra couple of nights and come down before. And then drove over, got there about 10 at night, did a bit of behind the scenes filming, did some photos. Ended up like some of the stuff I was doing was the press shots. So then I got like sent pictures of it on like billboards in the middle of London and stuff like that of this photo I'd taken. Sounded like really sound. But I think because I again probably didn't like take a step back and think about it because I'm in like work mode. I'm like, right, okay, let's get the shots I need. Let's be this. And then it wasn't until I got back at like 3 a.m. where like, man, I've just been hanging out with Idris Elba. That's mad. And he was like really lovely. And like we had a bit of a chat and everything. And,
Does it take you
crazy.
a little bit to wind down from them type of situations, like mentally? Does it take you a little bit like to?
I think so. Yeah, I think it does because it's such a high. I mean, especially because, I still have like a day job as well.
Yeah.
This is not like a full-time gig for me at the minute.
Mm.
So there are times where it's a very like crazy high that you're doing something, especially if I've like gone to London. Like I've been doing some stuff with a friend of mine's podcast company called Persophonica and been doing the press shots of Ed Bowles and George Osborne. So I've been going down a couple of times and doing some studio work, shots in Spotify studio with them. And
that's a random one, isn't it? That's I forgot about those pictures. That's a random situation to be in with ex like chancellor,
ex-chancellor and shadow chancellor. Yeah. And they were both like lovely, regardless of what you're thinking politically and everything. They're both really sound. So that was another thing. Dino rang me and said,
"Oh, still arguing about politics with each other." Did it?
No, they were right. They're actually on the same page with a lot of stuff. I mean, politically, they probably are opposites a little bit, but when they were talking about things that are currently happening, it was quite interesting to sort of listen to. But yeah, I just got a phone call saying there's a studio we found just to do this quick press shot. Can you come down? It was in the middle of Soho, so I like drove down at like 6 a.m. Got there. I think I got to London at like maybe 10. Set up at 10:30, they both came in, and 11 we had to be out of the room because someone else had got it booked. So it's a lot of you come down and it's like, right, you've got half an hour with them and then you got to go because their schedule is obviously mental. Ed's presenting Good Morning Britain and everything, all that kind of stuff.
So did you have to take lights down and set up all lights at that time as well, which is quite time.
I did, I did with that. So I've taken a lot of stuff down with me because that particular shot was one we'd kind of had an idea of. Dino sent me a shot of what the room looked like. So I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do. The stuff we did at the Spotify was just a bit like this, where it's just a big white backdrop. And they were just sort of shots that we could then use for then for Senna, who's the graphic designer for his company, to like make the artwork out of. But again, you finished at like midday and then I'd kind of maybe book an hotel to stay in rather than drive back up because I wanted to get the shots done, like edit them and get them sent off straight away. So go and do that. But yeah, it is mad when like the day after, 6 a.m, you're swimming in a hotel pool thinking, wow, what a life. This is like, I've just done like, this is my company's paid for this. It's not like coming out of the joint account paying for this hotel. Do you know what I mean? Like my company as Pedalo has paid for this hotel. Yeah. No, it's paid for this hotel for me to stay in. I'm like swimming in the pool at 6 a.m. and then the day after you kind of go back to reality a little bit. And it's a bit of a come down, and it's hard. It's hard to like pick yourself back up again, but yeah, it's, you know, part of it.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
I guess it's the same in a band, you know, people who are in bands that haven't quite tipped over that edge yet. You might go and do a gig where you play to 2,000-3,000 people and it's mad and everyone knows the names of your songs, but then, you know, 2 days later you're back working in a factory or something, or working in a warehouse. And it's that part of the grind, I think, that also keeps you grounded. You know, I know as an artist, I know his work is incredible and he paints, his work's really good, it sells for a lot of money, but he still does a part-time job because he likes to be grounded and he likes to get that inspiration. And I think sometimes you can use that to get inspiration for your work. You know, if you're just doing this full time, you might lose that inspiration and that drive a little bit to sort of keep it pushing, you know. Like if say you're in a band and you've done well and your third album's out, like you're not singing about the same things you were when you were struggling or trying to get there. And then maybe it's a little bit similar.
Well, I can remember last time I saw you in real life, we're down at Tramlines. We were just in one of them booze things, and I can remember asking because you've recently stopped the booze, aren't you? And I can remember asking you, do you ever miss it? And you said no, I don't. I'm like, wow, he means it. Like, you know, has booze and that kind of stuff, has that helped you focus and get more shit done as well? Has that been a change?
Yeah, it's like 2 years now, pretty much nearly 2 years. November, I think it is, since I stopped. And I never really sort of had a big problem with it or anything. You know, I would, and I was never like a massive drinker, but I used to sort of find myself being in situations where when you've had a little bit too many and you're a bit giddy and you kind of regret, you know, you have that remorse thing the day after of like, oh, why did I say that? Or why did I do this? Or, you know, someone says, oh, do you remember saying this to somebody? And you're like, you know, I can't remember. So I'm sure
I'm still there. I really am. I have thought about stopping booze, but I still enjoy it. But I do need to know my limits more. That's struggling where, you know, I just need to.
Yeah.
I'm getting better at like, usually I have like 3 and then I have 3 zeros and I'll have 3 beers and then 3 zeros. That kind of helps me steady things. But sometimes forget to have them 3 zeros and you go too far and you just
have 6 straight ones instead.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, I mean that's been game changing really the last few years. You know, there's so much good quality, like 0% stuff. Like the 0% Guinness is incredible, and there's some really good stuff out there where you can be still part of the, you know, you're still part of the night out, and you know, you're still not that there's anything wrong with, you know, being there and you're holding a Coke and all your mates have got pints, but when you're sort of there with a pint of 0% beer and you kind of, you know, you're all part of the same conversation almost then. So yeah, I think it was more of a conscious choice of me wanting to be a bit more professional, I think, and a bit more, if I'm meeting people and I'm going to connect with them and maybe do something with them, I don't want them to be thinking, oh yeah, he was a bit drunk and he said some really daft stuff and he was really giddy. Do you know what I mean? And that was sort of me wanting to be a bit more professional as I got older, I think, and take this thing really seriously. So
I think I'm going to take some advice from you there, Robert. But, you know, we live and learn. What I do love about your photos, though, like there's little things with your photography that I personally noticed and liked, where when you've edited, like the skies are always like a perfect blue type thing. What kind of? I don't know why that sticks out to me. I've just your pictures. Is that a thing that you're just testing out and trying to style?
No, not really.
No.
No one's ever mentioned it before. I do get someone did comment on a picture I posted yesterday and just said like, I don't know who they were, but they follow me on Instagram, bless them, and they were like saying, "Oh, the colours in your photos always pop so well." And I don't know, it's not something. Again, I think it's just if I like it, if I like that style and I like how that looks, then that's okay. If, you know, that's going to be okay. And if other people like it, great. And if people take meaning from it, or if they take something from that photo that I initially didn't like kind of intend, then that's still fine. You know, it's fine for people to interpret stuff in that way. So yeah, it's the same. And some of it is just probably luck, you know, like the little Sims photo from the sort of first Tramlines I ever shot was just happened to be there when she was, you know, bending back with the microphone and just caught everything perfectly. And
I remember that, because you sent it to me to share on RGM for you and all, didn't you? And
I did, yeah.
That was class.
And people go, you know, people have bought that as a print and stuff. So, and the same with the one of Rebecca, like Self-Esteem. People have done the same with that as well from the year after. But I think it's always just been for me like trying different stuff. You know, the first tram lines when I took those photos of like Little Sims and Dizzy and the streets were first time I'd ever shot live photography, or live music, and I'd never planned on being a music photographer. I don't think that's something that's for me, but I still like to do it when it's like a moment, you know, rather than like a gig photography. So I think that's what's been so well received with the photo I did at the Monkeys gig. Is it's not like a photo of, you know, one of the band members on stage. It's like a photo of the band sort of through the crowd. And some like loads of people have bought that print and then messaged me saying it's like where I was stood, and it's how I remember that gig of being in the crowd and seeing people on shoulders and the bands, you know, away in the distance. So I think that's more of what I try to do, is capture moments rather than the actual person. You know, I don't want it to be like a stock photo of somebody. Like I want it to be a moment that there's other people who are involved with as well.
I like that. And what's your favorite thing to do? Is it like studio stuff or live stuff? Because I know from running this magazine and being in a few photography pits before in the time, they're a bit rough and ready than being in photo pits, aren't they? You know, there's a lot of rules that you can get.
Yeah.
There's people that move you out of the way. One of our photographers got shoved by the crowd because they were just taking photos, and there's quite a lot that goes on. You know, when somebody feels like they're in your way and they're like moving them out of the way. So I'm here, I'm working. It can be
it's pretty mad. Sometimes. I mean, fortunately for me, the only sort of the live stuff I've done where I've not had like because usually the rule is like, you know, no flash and first 3 songs, then you've got to get out of the pit. So you can only photograph the first 3 songs. So that's always been the case when I've done tram lines for the last sort of 3 years. But been fortunate enough for all the other stuff I've done. So like when I did like a Millburn gig in Manchester, like a working men's club gig at the Lead Mill, a couple of John's gigs at like the Academy, I've had like a pass that's just like stay in the pit as long as you like, and you know, do us what you need. So I've probably been quite fortunate in that sense that I've not really experienced that side of it yet, of being like shoved and pushed out of the way and things like that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm quite laid back, aren't I? So maybe it's been there and I've just forgot about it because it's not bothered me, you know.
Well, what's coming up next for you and Pedalo photography? What's like any exciting
you'd like a few little bits. So doing some stuff with Ed Cousins today. Actually, we're doing some little bits of video. Doing some stuff with Joe Carnell for Good Cop Bad Cop. Just carrying on getting people in the studio because I like being in here now and it's a good place, and I'm kind of finding my feet with studio photography, especially like portrait stuff. I've just done some stuff with a cycling company. It was ended up me wearing the kit, which was quite funny. So like self-portraits of me in different cycling tops.
Wearing all that gym stuff. I've seen your little bit morning.
I mean, I don't think a year ago I'd have had the confidence to do it, but now I do like 3 stone lighter. Now I've kind of have. And then there's other little bits I do for like other companies, like some corporate stuff. I'm off to Ibiza at the end of the month for a week, just doing some filming in Ibiza for a week in like a big house. So that'd be quite nice. Bit of
is there some big names in the house that you can't say yet?
With what, sorry?
Is there going to be some big names in that house that you can't say?
Well, it's like a furniture company that I do stuff for, so
okay,
probably no big names, but you know, just like little bits of lifestyle things and stuff. So but I enjoy it. Yeah, Laura James, they're called. They're really good. Like really nice.
And they have to take you to. It's a nightmare. They have to take you to Ibiza to shoot a bit of furniture, innit? What a life!
I know. Well, it's hard, isn't it? I probably didn't think 3 years ago that this was what I'd be doing for a living and earning money. You know, so yeah, and I think the things just keep going. Like I never really know what's next. I do a lot of stuff with like Pete McKee, so it's it's very varied. So there's some stuff I've done that's going to be in his next exhibition, I think. Especially in the book, there'll be some stuff there. His last exhibition that he did, my work was on the walls. The people with the big paper mache heads and everything was in there, which was kind of the Kickstarter to get in this studio. Really, you know, the sort of money I earned from that paid for this for a bit, and then you know helped it get started and things. So, and all that came from just one photo of when we were doing some Steve Bracknell stuff, and I took a impromptu photo of them while they were filming, and it kind of went a bit crazy. And next thing I'm having a meeting with Pete and I'm in his exhibition, and then I'm in a studio, and then I don't know, I just keep letting things grow and see where they get to. I think, you know, keep an open mind about what I'm doing.
That the filming for Bracknell stuff, I've always enjoyed it from start. From when I first saw Chris doing Bracknell, and creating this character quite organically. And
Mm.
I can imagine the process is quite quick paced, and you're all going to be here at one place. Just to talk us through how much fun that must be, just being a part of Chris's team and making those things.
It's great. Like when we've done the stuff at what was it, the biggest one we did, or the really sort of challenging one, was the one with him and Tom doing the sort of mental health talk thing, and it was really that was quite deep to do, and we filmed it on like my camera, so we just had a bit more of a cinematic look rather than, because we just film it all on mobile, so all just filmed on his iPhones, and then Matt cuts it all together. So yeah, shout out to Nicholson, like incredible filmmaker and editor and stuff, and really good guy. And we just film it on his phones and then run around. Sometimes we're running around while if we're doing a bit of a football scene, we'll run around, do stuff. And then there's little bits where we did a penalty shootout one where it was because I'm the goalkeeper for the team. So we did like a penalty shootout one, which I wasn't filming, but I was in it, which was quite fun, diving around on the pitch, and quite a good story about in that one with Bob scouting the wrong team and writing the wrong penalty directions down because he'd gone to watch the wrong team play, which was funny. So I'm diving the wrong way for everything, which was quite funny. But most of the time, it's just like Matt or me and Matt running around with the cameras, with his phones, picking stuff up, and then I'll try and get a few stills here and there and do stuff. So it's quite fun. But yeah, the mental health one was quite deep, but it was a story that Chris really wanted to tell, and I think it came out really well. It came out how we wanted it to, and it impacted a lot of people, and not enough people sort of talk about stuff like that. So I think we really wanted to shine a light on it, and it's hard if people don't feel like they've been through that. I think it was hard for, like, I remember Tom sort of saying, like, I don't really know what to say. I was like, well, I can give you a few things to say. So, it's hard. And I think if anything, if that gets people talking about mental health or opening up a little bit, then that was kind of the thing Chris wanted to achieve. And I think we have done, people ask me about it, and I do it, I'm not like ashamed to say I have like therapy once a week, and I speak to a counselor and talk through things and everything. And I would very much advise other people if you can do the same thing, because it's not, it's not something that you do because something's gone wrong. It's good to just do it anyway. It's really good to keep that conversation flowing and get people talking more. So that was what we wanted to do with that one. But yeah, it is fun. It's hard. It's crazy because it's, everybody else who's in that background isn't in on it. They don't know something that's happening. The last one they filmed, I wasn't there, but it was in a pub toilet, and people in the pub, people coming into the toilet, and they're like, can you just give us 2 minutes? We're trying to film something. And they're like, what the hell are you trying to film in a pub toilet?
I watched that one as well when he's like when he's filming over when he's hanging over as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's fun, and it's all Chris, and it's all this character that Chris is, this world that Chris has made, and he's incredibly talented, and he's an incredibly funny person. And yeah, I'm like, his journey as well, from where he's at, not stopped drinking a long time ago, and I'm like really proud of where he's got to, and really proud of him as a person to be so creative and be doing something like Bracknell that's just capturing people, and it's great. It's fun. It's really fun to be part of.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Well, Rob, really enjoyed catching up with you today, mate.
You too, mate. Yeah.
It's been, it's always good to chat, and, well said with, your thoughts over mental health and that kind of stuff. If people, I know, I don't really, I like, historically, I've always thought of it like you do therapy if there's been a problem. I've never really thought about it like you should do it anyway, because, why not?
It's not like, it's good to sort of talk things through with someone who doesn't know anything about you. It's really nice, and this is always good to get that perspective from people. And there's things that happen, or things that come up in my life, and things recently where I then look forward to talking to my therapist and think, right, okay, I'm going to get some perspective on this. That's not, because you talk to your family, and your family are going to be on your side. They're going to want what's best for you, and they might not be as impartial as what someone who is essentially a stranger is. So yeah, I would always advise it, or just talking in general. Ask your mates how they are, and ask them again if they say I'm fine, because sometimes they're not. So it's hard, but yeah, breaking that down, we're getting better at it, I think, as people, especially men. It's all right to talk about it, and then that's a big thing I really push. Talk about how you're feeling. It's fine.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us today, mate. Within the description of this podcast, there's going to be a link to Pedlo, so all the artwork in there. Grab yourself a print, why not?
Yeah, I forget about the
Oh,
prints. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there in a minute.
yeah. Yeah, grab yourself a print. Enjoy his work. Rob, I will see you around about Sheffield at some point, mate, in the no distant future. And really appreciate you joining us today, mate. Thank you. Nice one.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me.